I happened to meet Katy Perry socially before she blew up, before one of the boys.
She creates noise. She creates noise. She's moving through the world with a powerful voice. She creates noise. She creates. She creates noise. She creates noise.
Hi, and welcome to She Creates Noise. I'm Sarah Nagurney, songwriter, producer, manager, and your host, and I'm so grateful to have you here. She Creates Noise is about highlighting the women who shape the music industry, executives, producers, songwriters, managers, artists, and advocates who've built lasting careers in a challenging and constantly evolving landscape. We want to tell these stories to amplify these women's accomplishments and to inform and educate everyone about their journey. We also hope that young people will learn that they can be part of this industry too when they come to understand the journey of these impressive women. Recently, we included mentor and artist pairings of A.C. Scott, who began her singing career in her 60s, alongside with her mentor, the remarkable A&R executive Kate Hyman, who joins us in seasons 1 as well. We'll have a thoughtful mental health episode featuring top-tier industry leaders Erica Ramone, manager Fergie, and Kathy Olson, founder of Hollywood in Mind, exploring the emotional realities behind the music business. We'll sit down with extraordinary hit songwriters, including Bonnie McKee, known for her work with Katy Perry, Pam Shane, who co-wrote Genie in a Bottle, and Grammy-nominated Laura Veltz, whose songs with artists like Maren Morris have shaped today's country and pop landscape, along with many more voices who continue to move the industry forward. There are so many interesting guests coming up, and I'm excited for you to hear their stories about craft, leadership, longevity, and what it takes to build a meaningful career in music. If you'd like to know more about me and my own journey as a songwriter and producer, you can always check out the trailer. Thank you for coming back. Thank you for listening. And please leave a comment or review wherever you get your podcasts, as it helps the algorithm to show that you care about the topics we discuss. Thanks again for being with us here at She Creates Noise.
She creates noise.
Welcome to She Creates Noise. My guest today is Grammy-nominated songwriter and pop artist Bonnie McKee, one of the most influential hitmakers of the past 2 decades. Bonnie has co-written the extraordinary run of chart-topping pop anthems, including Katy Perry's Teenage Dream, California Girls, Last Friday Night, Part of Me, and Roar. Altogether, she's written 10 number-1 singles worldwide, with songs recorded by other artists as well, including Britney Spears, Cher, Kesha, Christina Aguilera, and many more. Bonnie first arrived in the industry as a teenage artist and a songwriter, releasing her debut album, Trouble, while still in her teens. After navigating the highs and lows and setbacks of an artist career, she reinvented herself as one of pop's most sought-after writers, helping craft the sound of a generation of radio hits. At the same time, Bonnie has built a passionate following as a solo artist with her bold visual style and high-energy pop. Her bombastic EP landed more than 20 film and TV placements, and her 2024 album, Hot City, debuted at number 2 on iTunes. She's also expanded into filmmaking, writing, and directing award-winning short films, including April Kills the Vibe and Forever 21, which was selected for the 2025 Tribeca Film Festival. She joins me here today. Thank you so much, Bonnie. It's so great to have you here.
She creates noise.
You started in the industry as a teenage artist with a major label deal and later became one of the most successful songwriters of your generation. When you look back at that journey, what was the turning point that really helped shape you? And I know that there were some early days that were incredibly exciting. You were just a teenager and you had a bidding war. I heard a little bit about that. And just tell us a little bit about how that all came together in the early days.
Yeah, I feel like I've lived so many lives. I've had so many chapters, as far as a turning point, I've had so many sort of rebirths, in my long career. But yeah, it all started when I was a teenager. I started writing songs. I mean, secretly when I was just when I was a child, I was writing songs, but I was too shy to show them to anyone. And then I started taking it really seriously at about 12 years old. I made a demo of a bunch of original songs for a school project. And gave it to everyone I knew, and someone I knew someone that babysat for someone in LA that was like fringe music industry people.
That's crazy.
I know, really, really luck of the draw. And I ended up coming down to LA. I had an attorney, Doug Mark, shout out Doug Mark, who was very helpful and instrumental in helping me get my first record deal. And there was a big bidding war, and I ended up signing with Tom Molly at Warner Brothers. I was his first signing when he came over there to be the CEO. So it was kind of like industry darling moment where everybody was all excited about the new girl, you know?
Everybody wanted you.
Yeah, I mean, for a second, and I really thought that I was such a genius, you know,
Yeah,
and
on your way.
yeah, I thought that all of my dreams were coming true and that everything was going to be great. And it was really just the first of many, many chapters in my very long career. And I put out an album. It did okay. I feel like every time I have come into the industry, every time I have released anything as an artist, it's been a transitional time. So when my album came out, it was like the beginning of iTunes and like online stuff. Like nobody was really doing that. Like before that, it was like you go to Tower Records and that's how you buy music. So I feel like the industry hadn't really figured out how to sell music online yet. It was just brand new. And then later, you know, it was streaming and then TikTok, you know, like there's been so many huge transitions in the music industry since I started, where you just have to learn to adapt.
And there you were, all of 16, living on your own in LA with a record deal and trying to figure it out. And that sounds like it must have been just a lot on your plate.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I grew up in Seattle. I was born in Northern California. I spent my formative years in Seattle. So when I came to LA, I was very young. I didn't know anyone. I didn't have any peers my own age. I really just knew like the old guys in suits that were giving me money and telling me I was great. And I was very lonely, but I really was very confident. I think I had beginner's luck that really made me probably overly confident. And I didn't really understand that getting a deal is just the first step in so many for all of the stars to align so that something is actually successful. Yeah, I made this album. I made it with Rob Cavallo, who did Green Day and Goo Goo Dolls and Michelle Branch and all of these people that I really idolized. I was just so, so happy to be in the studio. And I had written the first album by myself. I had never co-written anything before. So they were all 100%ers. It took forever. You know, I was just listening to Lauren Christie's episode of your podcast, and she was talking about how long it took to make music back then. And it really did. It was a whole production.
There are a lot of similarities, yeah, for sure. And she was also very young. It's challenging, and things are better for women. But this was a time that must have been challenging.
You know, someone recently said to me like, "Oh wow, like I wish I could be 20 again." And like, would you go back to being 20? And I was like, absolutely not. Like just being a teenager in the early 2000s in the music industry as a girl was a really tough time. It was a tough time in culture, especially for women. Like I just watched the documentary about America's Next Top Model. And, you know, you see headlines and stuff about like the types of questions they were asking people like Britney Spears and Christina Aguilera about their virginity, and just like really gross. It was just like a weird time to be a girl, and especially coming into such a cutthroat world, not knowing who you are yet, and just really being exposed to a lot of inappropriate
stuff. Yeah. I mean, that kind of is, you know, the conversation in this podcast is a lot about how things are for women. How has it improved? I definitely want to talk to you more about it. I want our listeners to know a little more about you and just sort of spread the amazing news about all the incredible hits you've had with Katy Perry, Britney Spears, Kesha, Cher, Christina Aguilera, with songs like Teenage Dream, California Girls, Roar, Last Friday Night. That's 10 number ones, right?
Yeah.
That's just unbelievable. And I also heard that you have had at least at the time that I heard this, you'd had more number ones than Beyonce at that time, Justin Bieber.
Oh, I don't know about that.
Well, it was, the numbers were similar, maybe a couple of years ago, but this was something I read. Certainly you're up there and you're behind Taylor Swift, and behind Michael Jackson, but not that far behind. So it's pretty, I mean, as I am a songwriter, so as a songwriter, that's really quite crazy, culminating in billions of streams. When you were writing those songs, what did you feel when you were doing that? Did you have any sense about what was about to happen for you with all those amazing songs?
Well, so I put out an album on Warner Brothers as a teenager. It flopped, and it's kind of a rite of passage, I think, for every artist to have their first record deal and get dropped. Lady Gaga, Pink, Bruno Mars, like Katy Perry, everybody does that. At the time, I really thought that it was all over for me. And I was like so terrified. Do I have to go back to Seattle and work retail, or like, what am I going to do? I didn't finish high school. I got kicked out of high school. I had no education. I had no skills other than music and performing. So when I got dropped, I was really like, what am I going to do? And I started singing demos for money, a couple $100 pop or whatever, singing songs for other songwriters. And so I was exposed to professional songwriters, and I was like, this is a job, huh? And like some of the songs that I was singing, I would find myself being like, I think if the chorus, like if you changed it a little, and then they were like, we're paying you to just sing it. Nobody cares what you think about this song. This is not a co-write, and so I started kind of learning about like how people write songs and they pitch them to artists or labels or whatever. And I started dating a producer who was signing a publishing deal with a small boutique publishing company called Pulse. They ended up signing me for nothing. Like I was nobody, I had nothing, and they signed me. A publisher is kind of like an agent for a songwriter, right? Like they set up relationships with the labels, they set up co-writes, all of that. And so I started just kind of learning the ropes of what it means to be a professional songwriter. But my intention was never to be a professional songwriter. That wasn't like my first choice. I really was an artist at heart. I love being on stage. I love performing. And so songwriting was kind of like plan B for me. But I started doing it, and I just got better and better. It's like I got my 10,000 hours in, and I happened to meet Katy Perry socially before she blew up, before One of the Boys. We were both broke, dropped artists selling our clothes at a thrift store. And she recognized me. She knew my album and was like, oh, you're Bonnie McKee. And I hadn't really been recognized in public before, because I was just sort of like a niche, like nobody really knew who I was. And so we were fast friends. And then she invited me to write on the second album, on the Teenage Dream album. It ended up being something way bigger than I thought. And back to your question, how did it feel? Surreal. And I really didn't believe it. I was working with Dr. Luke and Max Martin and Katy Perry, three of the biggest, most iconic people in the industry at the time. And so I was like, I'm sure it'll do something. Like I'm really lucky to be in this room, and I'm learning so much. But at that point, I had been at it for 10 years already. So I was like, I'll believe it when I see it. I wasn't that, I was excited, but I was like, there's so many almosts. Like I have a whole career of just almosts.
So this was the gap basically from when you had been an artist and dropped, and then you were just writing and singing demos and stuff.
Yeah. And just like being a sort of like working class songwriter, and just sort of getting cuts here and there, and being like, okay, this is cool. But I hadn't really made any real money or whatever. I just like kind of was starting to get a name for myself as a songwriter. And so when I went in with Katy, I didn't really know what it would do. Because One of the Boys was big. It was definitely big. Hot and Cold, I Kissed a Girl. There were a bunch of hits on that album, but it wasn't like global holy shit. You know what I mean? So I was like, okay, this will be cool. Like this will probably be on the radio. But when California Girls debuted at number one, I was like kind of in denial, kind of in disbelief. Like I was so afraid to get my hopes up because I had been disappointed so many times. And so it took a while for that to really like sink in, that like something had actually connected and was like making a cultural impact.
Wow. And that was your first number one.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
She creates noise.
That's insane. But that was all part of the string that was about to happen, the string of hits.
Yeah. So California Girls happened, and then Teenage Dream, and then Last Friday Night. And then I think that same summer, I had written a song for an artist named Taio Cruz called Dynamite. And it was like a cute little bop. I never ever thought that was going to go as big as it went, but that ended up also being a huge global hit. And it also ended up being
bar mitzvah song.
Yeah, every wedding, every bar mitzvah, every ball game. That was a really interesting song for me to learn from, because I had kind of written it off as like kind of being just like whatever, where I was like, this is sort of like, well, first of all, when I wrote the hook of Dynamite, everyone always asks me like, why do you only throw your hands up in the air sometimes? Because it's I throw my hands up in the air sometimes. And I'm like, it's not actually a party song for me. It's about surrender. So at the time I was just toying with the idea of getting sober. And so I was like kind of going through a lot. And so like writing a party song that day was like, I needed it to have a little more depth for me, you know? And so that was kind of what the chorus was about for me. And then Taio came in and wrote the verses. And at first I really like pushed against it because it seemed so trivial. And like, I wanted it to be deep and like, whatever. But like, wearing all my favorite brands, you know, that's what makes the song. Like the verse is what lures people in to stay for the hook, you know? And I think without that really brilliantly simple lyric, that's just pure unadulterated fun, I don't know that people would have stuck around for the hook, you know? So I learned about like the power of simplicity, and that song was like a big lesson for me. And I got a little less precious about, you know, everything having to be so deep and meaningful, because it still had meaning to me.
The sometimes it makes all the difference, but other people didn't pick up on that in the same way. It's so interesting. We're all, as songwriters, sitting back and saying, why did it take the Grammy organization so long to recognize? Yeah, but I'm so glad that they did.
Me too.
I mean, so many people know your songs. Has it been frustrating that very few people knew who actually wrote them? And are you feeling like a little bit more vindicated and that women are getting more attention?
I think that in the age of social media, the songwriters have a lot more visibility. And I think back in the day, songwriters were really not celebrated, and they really were like shoved in the closet, and no one can know that you exist. And everyone including myself, when I was a kid, I thought that Whitney Houston wrote all her own songs. I thought that, you know, Madonna wrote everything herself. Like, I didn't understand that there was people behind those songs. Some of the biggest stars and the biggest hits in the world, the artist didn't write anything on it at all. And I think that there's like a sort of stigma amongst artists where they feel like if they don't have writing on it, then people won't take them seriously. And back in the day, it was harder to like look up who wrote what, you know? And so it kind of keeps this illusion that they're the sole artist and creator of it, but it really takes a village. And so now I think with, like I said, with social media, I think that songwriters are more celebrated these days, and people are really interested in the whole process behind it. So I think it's gotten better in that way. And obviously now we have a Grammy just for songwriters. It took them long enough, but I'm happy they finally got there.
Yeah, finally got there. There was a story I read. I thought it was an interview with Max Martin. It's a while ago, talking about it taking a village. And it said for Teenage Dream that there were different rooms of people setting up different sections of the song. Is there any truth to that detail? I always meant to find out if it was something like someone was working in the chorus and somebody else, some other writers in another room. Was that just apocryphal, or is there truth to that?
I mean, usually the process when working with Max and Luke was, you know, they would have a track, and there would usually be a third producer like Benny Blanco or Circuit, or, you know, some young, fresh, awesome genius. And they would build a track, and they would come up with most of the melody. And then Katy also was like big on the melody stuff too. Katy and I would go in another room and work on the lyrics together. And that was like really my biggest role in the beginning, was helping with lyrics. So they would be working on the track, and then Katy and I would be working on the lyrics. So that was really the process.
Yeah, the way that article felt, sounded like there was a bunch of different people working on different. So that's wherever I read that. It's a while ago. But when you kind of think back to some of those hits, are the memories of the details very vivid to you, or did it seem
Oh,
like just
yes.
some kind of magical thing that just happened?
No, it was, I mean, I write by hand in notebooks. I'm like an analog writer. And so I have all of the notebooks of the process of how we got from point A to point B, where it starts with just like writing down title ideas, writing down just like themes of like what the song feels like it's about. And then I have, Teenage Dream, we wrote and rewrote, I think 6 different times. There was like 6 different full versions of the lyric before we settled on Teenage Dream. So I remember the process really well. And I can also go back and review how we got there. I think the reason I prefer writing in a notebook, besides the fact that I do feel like there's some kind of a spiritual connection that happens and a connection between your brain and your body when you write by hand, is that when I write on a computer, when I'm typing, I tend to delete things. And when I write in pen, it's not going anywhere. So I have like the whole roadmap of how I arrived where I was going.
I like that. That's very retro of you. I like that a lot.
I know. It's just how I've been doing it since I was 12,
Well, they still have notebooks of Dylan and the Beatles, and they show all the scribbles, and it's kind of a beautiful thing to hold on to that. I recently had a little flood, and I had all my little notes, and I wound up throwing them all out, which is
oh
too
no,
bad.
I'm so sorry.
But I didn't have the kinds of hits that you had. So,
but still, I mean, I have every journal, every diary I ever wrote in since I was a kid. I'm sorry to hear that. That's like actually when the fires happened in LA last winter. My first thought, because I had to evacuate, my first thought was like, get the journals. That's the most important thing is the journals.
Did you live in an affected area?
There was a fire just right across. I live up in the hills, and there was one just like the next hill over. And they were spreading so quickly that I was like, I could see the flames, and I was like, okay, it's time to go. But luckily, everything was fine.
It's scary. I do know a few people lost their homes. I'm sure you do.
I do. Yes, much.
I mean, just talking a little bit about the men and women situation. I mean, there's a lot of talk about safety in the studio, and also just the visibility of women in the studio. Mm-hmm. Do you feel like, have you ever felt unsafe? Have you felt that it's easy? You don't have to be specific if you don't want to be, but have you felt that things are improving for women in general?
Yes, I do think that, the Me Too movement absolutely helped things, where I think that a lot of men that were sort of getting away with harassment and abuse are less likely to do so, because I think women have been empowered to speak up and to stand up for themselves. And I think that Gen Z is better. I think that they're better. So, I work with a lot of younger people, and I don't know, I feel like those boys are, not all of them, but I feel like
more enlightened. Maybe more enlightened.
Yeah.
I think in the arts, I mean, there is a lot of odd stuff going on because of the internet, I think, but not probably with the kinds of people that you're going to be working with.
Yes, there was so much harassment and so much abuse and assault, and I mean, you name it, I went through it. Just being objectified in the studio, comments about my body and assumptions. When you're writing a song, it's a very intimate experience. And oftentimes it would just be me and another man. If there's drinking involved, even if there's not, if you're writing a song about love, sex, relationships, you're having these very intimate conversations with, and it's essentially a stranger. And I mean, I can't tell you how many times people just got the wrong idea. And it's like, huh. And so I kind of learned early on that there's some things that I just won't say. Like I'm a little more careful about the way that I talk about intimacy in sessions, unless I really know someone or trust someone. But also I think now that I'm like a seasoned veteran in the industry, like they wouldn't dare being an unknown young songwriter. I mean, you're like prime for being taken advantage of,
Do you ever seek out working with women producers? Or have you worked? Okay. Have you been working with some of there seems to be a lot more of them out there, I have to say.
Yes, which is so incredible. And I mean, I've also gotten into producing. I mean, the truth is, like, I've been backseat producing from day one. And I just, like, because of the kind of gender norms, I never even thought to take credit for it. But always, from my first album, I was like, I want the guitar to sound like this. I want the drum beat to go like this. I want to play it like these are the chords. I was very much involved in the actual production of it. I was never the artist that just came in and sang the song. And so I should have been credited for a lot of the things that I worked on. And even on some of the big hits that I wrote, I'm like, that production element was my idea. That was my suggestion. But, when you're in the room with like huge names, like, I'm not going to fight for that. I wasn't in a position to.
And nowadays, are you making more of a point to do that?
Oh, yeah, definitely. Absolutely. And also, like, there's just such a huge gap between what a producer gets paid and what a songwriter gets paid. Essentially, songwriters work for free. There have been a few odd sessions where I'll get paid for my time to show up, but they're few and far between. And they're not major labels, I can tell you that. It's like private, wealthy people that are like, if I want to have like a hit songwriter in the room, then like they'll pay for it, which I'm so grateful for that. Honestly, it's like I write differently when I'm being paid for my time. Like I do, I take it very seriously. I mean, I take it very seriously anyway, but it's like after 20 years of working on spec, sometimes you're like, what are we doing here?
Can I please get paid?
Yeah. So now I always try to be involved in the production even more so because I'm like, I want credit. I want to get a point. And I mean, even if I'm not involved in the production, as a songwriter, I believe songwriters should get points no matter what.
They are starting to get pieces of the master. It is becoming more popular or is being done. I've had to fight for it a few times. Do you have any women producers that you don't mind naming or that you're working with?
Currently, I mean, there's a lot of other songwriters that I work with that are also kind of in the same world that I'm in, where it's like we are very hands-on. Like Coco Morier, for example, is very hands-on with the production stuff. Sorry, I'm trying to think off the top of my head. I don't have female producers that I work with regularly because I'm doing most of that myself too.
Well, that's fantastic. That's all good. Yeah, no, I find that I'm working more with them. I just interviewed a woman engineer. I'm going to be interviewing another engineer producer shortly, next coming up, who's actually from Colombia. Pretty interesting woman. But I know that you've also been expanding into films and directing with your film April Kills the Vibe and Forever 21, appearing at film festivals. What inspired you to step into filmmaking, and what does it feel like for you for another way of telling stories?
Oh my gosh, it's so exciting. I got into directing kind of just out of necessity because I'm an independent artist. So after I had all my hits, I went back to being an artist. It was always meant to be a stepping stone for me to get back on stage. I started releasing my own music again independently. I put out a song. I had a second record label deal, put out a song called American Girl. That's probably my biggest one because it had the most money behind it. But then I went independent and I started making music videos. And that's honestly why I wanted to get into music in the first place. Like I was raised on MTV and that's how I consumed my music. Like I didn't listen to the radio that much as a kid. I did, but I more just watched MTV all day, every day. I was like, that's what I want to do. Like I want to wear costumes. I want to tell stories. Like I just love the music video fantasy.
You're so visual. I mean, you're beautiful, and when I met you, you just looked so amazing. So,
thank you. You're so sweet.
Unforgettable, really. Distinctive.
Thank you. So I started directing my own music videos, and I really love it. And during the pandemic, I wanted to make a new acting reel because I've also done some acting, and all of the scenes that I was getting from my acting coach were kind of just like not speaking to me. And I was like, maybe I'll just write my own scene. And I started writing a scene, and then it turned into a short film. And I shot it. I directed it. I starred in it. I scored it. I edited it. It was the pandemic, so I had lots of time, and the rat race had stopped for a second, So I was like, well, this is like a fun opportunity to sort of explore a new medium. And then I, just for fun, entered it into a bunch of film festivals and ended up winning 53 awards for that.
Wow, that's amazing.
I was shocked. I was absolutely shocked. But it was really freeing to be able to tell a story that was longer than 3.5 minutes. Long form storytelling I'm really passionate about it now. And I'm working on several scripts right now and really hoping to get more into that world.
Do you see that as kind of a pivot for you, or are you just going to kind of keep all things going on at the same time?
I mean, I'm keeping them all going. I'm picky these days about what I work on as a songwriter. I'm still releasing my own music. I put out an album last year called Hot City that was originally, I wrote and recorded it when I was signed to my second record deal. And then the album got shelved and I was so devastated. And so 10 years went by. I had toured those songs when I was still signed. And then when I got on TikTok, I started seeing all of these comments from fans that were like, what happened to Hot City? What happened to Forever 21? Like, we love those songs, blah, blah, blah. All the demos had leaked. Like, they had gone to great lengths to hear these songs. All these bootleg versions were floating around on the internet. And I was like, I don't own the master. Like, I can't, there's nothing I can do. And then I saw that Taylor Swift had re-recorded her masters. And I was like, So I pulled a Taylor Swift. I re-recorded all of those songs. And I released it independently. And that was like such a victorious moment for me. The album ended up debuting at #2 on the iTunes Pop album chart, right behind Taylor Swift.
That's so amazing.
And it was just a really satisfying moment for me.
And this is fairly recently, right? The past couple of years?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was 2024. And I'm putting out Hot City Deluxe in a couple months. So that's coming out. And I'm still passionate about being an artist. I think that's probably my first love is performing and being on stage. And then I love to write. And I'm excited to get into screenwriting. I have a TV show that I'm developing right now. I'm kind of learning the politics of the film and TV industry, which is very different from the music industry. In some ways good, in some ways bad. It's maybe I'm going from the frying pan into the fire. I don't know. But I feel like as far as being a songwriter, I work on things that I'm really passionate about and that I'm excited about. But I am also just like tired of working for free, if I'm being honest, where I'm just like, I got a mortgage to pay or, and also just like valuing my time. So I'm excited to step into a new medium and see where that takes me.
She creates noise.
And also keep your performing alive, because it sounds like you really have some very amazing fans that want to see you.
I love my fans so much. Like I have a sort of a cult fan base, and they're small but mighty. When I sell vinyl or t-shirts or whatever, they sell out. And I'm like, great. It's not #1, but I'm just like so grateful that there are people that are excited to hear what I have to say. So, I think I sort of had an epiphany years ago where I was like, I always wanted to be the biggest pop star in the world. Like that was the plan since I was a little girl. And then I saw it up close and personal, and it was like pretty intense and pretty gnarly. And I was like, do I want that? I don't know. I don't want that. Like, of course, I'd love to have a #1 song of my own for my own artist project. But I think it's also like these days you can have a huge audience and not necessarily be #1 on the radio. Like, watching the VMAs, the Grammys, like there'll be artists that I'm like, who the hell is this? I've never even heard of this person. And then I go on their Spotify and they have like 30 million followers. And I'm like, damn, okay, there's like something for everyone, So I'm like, I'm happy to have my little niche and I would love to expand that. But I'm also just like, I feel like it used to sort of make or break my own self-worth, whether or not how successful I was. I really like lived and died by if I was #1 or not. I think I've sort of outgrown that. And I'm a lot more at peace with just like being really happy to have an audience that loves me.
That's great. And you've had those #1s, albeit through someone else, but you were in the co-pilot or whatever seat you were in to make those things happen. So you've had that experience. You've seen it all happen in front of your eyes.
Yeah. And I mean, to be honest, I think that I feel like I made a mark on pop culture history. And so I feel like I can die happy with that. I don't need to stay #1 my whole life. Had I not had that, I think I would be bummed, because like that was what I set out to do. And so, I feel like I still have that sort of fault in me where like I want to win. I really want to win. I really want to make a mark. But I feel like I have done that. And so that's like giving me a little bit of peace where I'm like, okay, now I can just do what I love and I can just do what makes me happy and what's fulfilling for me. And I don't have to keep chasing the #1 spot,
That's a great place for you to be emotionally. And it sounds like you're feeling good about where you are right now.
Definitely, yeah.
I mean, you mentioned something about sobriety or whatever, but it sounds like you're in a place where you are at peace in general. And that's...
Yeah. I got sober 14 years ago, and it was the greatest decision I ever made. I mean, a lot of people can drink and be just fine. Like, not everyone's an alcoholic. Alcohol isn't bad for everyone, but for me, it didn't work. And I felt like it was getting in the way of my success, and it was putting me at risk because I had already been through the ringer, being in a shitty record deal the first time around. I was so traumatized by that, and I was just so lost. I was drinking a lot and using a lot back then, and was just very woe is me, and like didn't have the clarity to get myself out of it. And like, it's such a cutthroat industry. So when I got my second chance and I was having like a second wind as a songwriter, I was like, I cannot fuck this up. Like, I cannot, like, people don't always get second chances. I got my head on straight and got to work, and I could not have done that if I were still drinking and using.
It's an amazing story. Is there anything that we didn't talk about? I know you're putting out your own music. Is there something you'd like to mention or add to what we've talked about?
I think that every songwriter should learn how to be an engineer and how to produce. I think that is really key to being self-sufficient. There were so many years before I learned how to engineer and produce where I was just heavily relying on other people. That's exhausting, especially when you're a creative person and you have bursts of ideas and you have to wait for someone else's schedule to clear up. Like, no, just learn how to use Pro Tools or Logic or Ableton, whatever it is. You can really take control and create things on your own terms.
I think that's great advice, especially to the younger people listening. Take control, and especially as a woman, make sure that you let them know that you know what you're talking about.
Definitely. And I think also one of the most important lessons that I've learned in my journey is to not make success your higher power, because success comes and goes, and you can't control how other people feel about your art, you know? So that's a dangerous place to like put all of your validation in what other people think about you. So I think it's important to just be there for the art and not for the fame or the money. Do it because you love it. Because especially in this business, like there's no guarantees. So do it because you love it.
Great advice. Thank you so much, Bonnie. It's been lovely to have you. And I look forward to watching your next things that you do and listening. I appreciate it. Thanks so much.
She creates noise.
I'd like to thank today's sponsor, Heard City, the premier audio post-production company servicing the advertising, motion picture, and television industries right here in NYC. I'd also like to thank Ann Tello, aka XO Ann, for singing the She Creates Noise theme that I wrote. Thanks for listening to She Creates Noise. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe, rate, and share. I want to thank the team here, Blair Reinley, Yelena Stavanovich, Emily Wilson, and the Master of Engineering and Grammy-winning Cooper Anderson. We'll see you next time.
She creates noise. She creates noise. We hear her voice. She creates noise. She creates noise. She creates noise. We hear her voice. She creates noise.
If you enjoy listening to this podcast, please consider leaving a review wherever you listen. For example, we have a comment from Tessie Schultz in Berlin, Germany. Brilliant episode with Karen Veazey. Thanks a lot. Inspiring and great insight. All the best from Berlin. Now, we really appreciate those things because it helps the algorithm. And we read everything, so please comment, send a review, and we will really appreciate it. And the podcast will do better and get to more people. Thanks a lot.
She creates noise.